Honourable EP Chet Green, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Trade, Her Excellency Karen May-Hill, High Commissioner for Antigua and Barbuda to the United Kingdom, His Excellency Ambassador Davin Joseph, Mr. Colin James, Chief Executive Officer of the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority, Ms. Petley Knight, Director of National Festivals, Ms. Annette Aflak, Carifesta Director, Mr. Elston Adams, Officer for Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Everton George, President of the Antigua and Barbuda National Association, Mr. Larry Gonzalez, Midlands Diaspora Coordinator, Mr. Anthony Thomas, Chair of Barbuda Rise, the Reverend Katie Kirby, Mr. Lawrence John, members of the Antigua and Barbudan Diplomatic Corps, staff of the Antigua Barbuda High Commission London, Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority UK and Europe, Government of Antigua and Barbuda in St. John's, members and friends of the Antigua and Barbudan diaspora in the United Kingdom, Europe, and the rest of the world who join us via Facebook and YouTube. Good evening and welcome to the Antigua and Barbuda High Commission's first virtual diaspora meeting. My name is Antonio Joseph, Attaché here at the High Commission, with responsibility for political, consular, and diaspora affairs. Before we begin, I would like to ask those of you who are joining us via Facebook to hit the share button so more people are able to partake in this event. Please feel free to like our Facebook page, and for those of you on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. I would like to ask all of you to compose yourselves for the national anthem of Antigua and Barbuda, sung by Mr. Laurent John.
Antigua and Barbuda, we thy sons and daughters stand, strong and firm in peace or danger, to safeguard our native land. We commit ourselves to building a true nation, brave and free, ever striving, ever seeking, dwell in love and unity. Raise the standard, raise it boldly, answer now to duty's call, to the service of your country, sparing nothing, giving all. Gird your loins and join the battle against fate and poverty, each endeavoring, all achieving, live in peace where man is free. God of nations, let thy blessings fall upon this land of ours. Rain and sunshine ever sending, fill her fields with crops and flies. We, her children, do implore thee, give us strength, faith, loyalty, never failing, all enduring, to defend her liberty.
Just before we continue, many of you have been calling the office and sending in your emails, inquiring how you get involved with the question and answer session. The simple answer to that is, for those of you who are on Facebook, there is a chat section, and when we come to the question and answer section, if you put your questions there, and in the same also for YouTube, for those who are joining us there, they will then be fielded and be given to those who are to answer them. To continue us with the rest of this evening, I now invite the Reverend Katie Kirby to lead us in a moment of prayer.
Good evening to our dignitaries and to the diaspora. Psalm 24 says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And it's based on that psalm that I pray for us this evening. Loving God, creator of our universe and giver of light, author of seasons, our atmosphere, day and night, our example of truth, of what is just and what is right, be with us and the land of our heritage tonight. Faithful Lord, humble yet majestic King, holy ruler, worthy of our praise offering, humbly yet powerfully sustaining and leading, be with us and the islands of our history this evening. Healing Saviour, cheerful giver and generous provider, hearing our groans, our benevolent comforter, you love us, you call us nearer and closer, be with us and the islands we call home forever. Amen.
Amen indeed. Thank you very much, Reverend Katie Kirby, for those wise words of encouragement and for setting us the mood for this evening. I'd like to invite Her Excellency Karen May Hill, High Commissioner for Antigua and Barbuda to the United Kingdom, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Antonio. Honourable Minister, colleague, ambassador, government officials, representatives from diaspora associations and groups, friends, good evening. I want to just quickly thank Laura for allowing us to use his version of the anthem to begin this evening's meeting, and to Reverend Kirby say a big thank you for setting the tone so beautifully for what we're about to share in this for the next hour or so. The past 12 months have been extremely challenging for every one of us. Just this week, I was really moved by the ceremonies across the UK to commemorate 1 year since lockdown began. And since then, some of us have lost loved ones, others have lost their jobs, and many of us are feeling the burdens of uncertain futures. I want to pay tribute to all those who have lost their lives over the past year, both in the United Kingdom and in Antigua and Barbuda from this virus. I also wish to pay tribute to the army of healthcare workers and other essential workers who carried out their duties faithfully at great personal sacrifice to them and to their families. You know, I've had the opportunity to speak with many of you over the past year, and I've been heartened by your resilience. I miss the faces, I miss the in-person interactions, but I'm optimistic that we will meet again. The High Commission has continued to serve you despite the restrictions, using technology where possible to maintain our presence and fulfill our duties. I pay special tribute to the dedicated staff here in London, Anaja, Idika, Antonio, and Jamal, for their unwavering commitment to duty. This evening, we have a rich program of sharing planned for everyone. Many of the things we wanted to do last year were cancelled, and many of the things we wish to do this year remain uncertain. But we want to use this evening's engagement as a chance for those in our diaspora to know that we value you, and that we want to hear your concerns, we want to share with you about what's happening in the land of your heritage and to share about our future plans. Now, speakers for today will share that type of information from a broad cross-section of persons. We are honored that the Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Trade has agreed to be our keynote presenter for this evening, and you'll hear him shortly. However, before we do, I've asked a few of our diaspora leaders to make some very short introductory interventions just to say hello and greet all of you. And I'd like to begin with Mr. Adams, if he is in office with the minister's team, who has been recently appointed head of diaspora affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to bid you a quick welcome. Mr. Adams, over to you.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner Hill. And I'll just quickly say that I accept all protocols as laid down. And as the Diaspora Desk Officer in Antigua and Barbuda, I bring warm greetings to you all in the UK and the Antigua UK Diaspora, hoping that everyone is doing very well, health-wise and otherwise. Now you may ask, what is the Diaspora Desk all about? Simply put, it's an office created in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through which Antiguans and Barbudans living abroad could get necessary or relevant information from a reliable and dependable source. It is to bridge between the diaspora community and the homeland. It is as a result of this need that the Honorable Paul Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs, appointed a Diaspora Forum Steering Committee to assist and create a website, a platform where Antiguans and Barbudans in the diaspora could visit for reliable information and also to share their experiences and their concerns. Obviously, we are all aware that many, many thousands of Antiguans and Barbudans and their descendants live abroad, including the UK. They migrated to distant lands for various reasons, including economic, educational, and I dare say political reasons, and no getting away from it. Many never look back. They only send remittances back to their relatives and loved ones at home. And I would say that factual information was not always easy to come by. And as such, false information is usually more easy to gather. And it's not always because individuals want to badmouth the nation, but because they were ill-informed, and at times the information were never investigated to verify the veracity or the truthfulness of the same. Well, soon, however, most if not all of that will be a thing of the past when the work on creating the website is completed and the official launch of the platform has taken place. And I say that will be in the next few weeks. Everyone will be able to visit the site themselves to gather whatever pertinent information that they need and to ascertain whether what they have been told is factual. The content will mainly be about Antigua and Barbuda and its people, about the past developments of the nation, and also about that which is on the way currently, because there are a lot of things that are happening in this country presently. And the developments where necessary will be supported by images on the website. We recognize as many of our nationals in the diaspora reach retirement age and are ready to return home. They want to know what are they entitled to as returning nationals. Some are thinking about investing at home and want to know what areas of investment or development they can participate in. Others want to know what incentives they will be given and how they can contribute also when they come back home or before returning home. Information like these are or will be able to obtain through the website and through the consulate mission pages on such a site. And with those short few words, I will say it is a pleasure to be a part of this gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. And now Diaspora know that you exist. And if they have any questions or concerns, they'll come up to you. I'm going to turn quickly to the president of our National Association here in London, Mr. Everton George, to say a very, very quick word.
Honourable Minister Mr. Chet Green, Your Excellency Karen Mayhill, Mr. Elston Adams, Ambassador H.E. Devon Joseph, Mr. Colin James, Mr. Petley Knight, Miss Anita Afflax, fellow members of the Diasporas. My name is Everton George. I was born in Antigua, Green Bay, St. John's. I'm currently the president of the Antigua and Barbuda National Station, London, also known as ABNA. ABNA was formed in June 1967 by a group of fellow Antiguans and Barbudans living in London, and the aims of the associations were to bring members and their friends together by organizing social and educational events, to cooperate with other organizations in promoting the welfare of its members, especially in the field of education, employment and housing, to keep members informed of the social, economic and political development of Antigua and Barbuda and of the Caribbean as a whole. To date, 54 years on these same objects have more or less remained the cornerstone of our association. As president, I'm responsible for the day-to-day running of our organization with the assistance of fellow elected officers. Over the years, we continue to have a good working relationship with our representative high commissioners, both past and present. Honourable Minister Green, you will recall that during the Olympics in 2012, a welcome event was held for the teams and officials. This event was jointly put together by ABNA and the Antigua and Barbuda High Commission, and not forgetting the Tourist Board as well. The most recent collaboration was the High Commissioner's personal involvement with our 35th Independence Church service. Since gaining independence on the 1st of November 1981, the Antigua and Barbuda National Association has held a service of thanksgiving to mark the occasion, which is then followed by a dinner and dance event. Because of the pandemic, there was no Independence dinner and dance, and our service was held online. We have organized trips to Antigua and Barbuda, the most recent being 2018. Over the years, we assisted in many projects for Antigua and Barbuda, our flagship one being the support of the Fines Institute and Disaster Preparedness Project. The Fines Institute is a place where you'll find senior citizens of both sexes who are unable to physically look after themselves. You will also find those who may well have been abandoned by their family because of mental health issues. In the area of disaster preparedness, we have assisted in giving monetary contribution towards hurricane appeals, not only to Antigua and Barbuda, but to other Caribbean islands. There is a limit of what we can do as a group to assist our fellow Antiguans and Barbudans here in the UK, and more so in Antigua and Barbuda. The object is to assist those in greater needs. We need the support of fellow members of the Diaspora and friends in order for this to be maintained. A frequently asked question is, what can ABNA do for me? My response is, what can you do for ABNA? We need to increase our membership base to a level that will financially make it easier to deliver our objectives. We are currently working towards application for charity status. We can do, as individuals, support Antigua and Barbuda economically by making trips home each year, either for Carnival, Christmas or Independence. Encourage our friends and neighbours who would normally take their holiday destination to Spain or Greece to go to Antigua and Barbuda instead. Tell them Antigua and Barbuda is a place to be for holidays and even weddings. Why not invest in land and property? You can find out more about ABNA via our website, abnalondon.uk, or admin@abnalondon.co.uk, and following us on our social pages. I thank Your Excellency for inviting me to say this short, I hope it was short, bit about ABNA.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think after that, you'll have many more members signing up. And I know you're keeping an eye on the cricket score as well, just as I'm doing while we're in this meeting.
Yes.
Let's go to the Midlands now, to Larry Gonzalez. Larry, I wish I could say the floor is yours, but I'd rather say that the screen is yours.
Sorry, Mr. Gonzalez, you're on mute.
Apologies about that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Larry Gonzalez, born and bred in Leicester. I'm a local businessman. I run a company called One Building Solution. But more relevant, in 2019, I was responsible by the assistance of two gentlemen called Cheddy Gore and Joran John of putting a team together to represent Antigua and Barbuda in the Inner City World Cup, which was staged in Leicester. It was, I think, about probably 15 teams put together who competed for the Inner City World Cup, again in Leicester, and Antigua and Barbuda won it. So off the back of that, in terms of getting everyone together and sharing and coming together in terms of our community, we're continuing to do that, and I'm assisting the High Commissioner in coordinating and connecting across the Midlands. This year, although we had the COVID last year, there are plans for the Inner City World Cup to be staged again in Leicester, and which we will be defending our title in again.
Thank you, Larry, and congratulations on that achievement 2 years ago. And I enjoy working with you and also Sharon from a Daddy Link in bringing the Midlands Diaspora program to life. Now we turn to my dear friend, Anthony Thomas, who's been at the forefront of the Barbuda Rise movement that came together after Hurricane Irma. Anthony, the screen is yours.
Thank you, High Commissioner. Thank you for the invitation. Good evening, all. My name's Anthony Thomas. I'm the chairman of the Barbuda Rise. That was formed from the wake of the Hurricane Irma. And we've done a number of projects and initiatives to raise awareness and funds to help in the aid, in the rebuilding and the restructuring, and really to help in any way we can. We've sent a container over with essentials, tools, garden equipment, etc., to help in the cause. We've done sponsored walks. We've had events where famous people have attended, and we've done a number of initiatives, and there've been a number of organizations which have helped us in our aid to help. Since the pandemic, it's not been easy to continue with the help. We will continue once we're in a position where we can gather again and bring people together. But this diaspora, the meetings, I think this will help as well, bringing people together and bringing the city of Leicester, the Antiguans and Barbudans together in different functions and different aid. I think it's a great thing what we're doing today, and I'm looking forward to the success of this group.
Thank you, Anthony, and congratulations for all the hard work that you're leading in that important endeavor to support Barbuda and Antigua.
Thank you.
Now we turn to our featured speaker for the evening, the Honorable E.P. Chet Green. Minister Green attended the Liberta Primary and the All Saints Secondary Schools before continuing tertiary studies in Cuba and France. He's a third-term parliamentarian, serving previously as Minister of Trade, Industry, Commerce, Consumer Affairs, Sport, Culture, and National Festivals, and he also served in the Senate. He's the president of the Antigua and Barbuda Olympic Association, and he's served as a member of several commissions and committees at local, regional, and international levels in sport, including as the Commissioner of Sports, an executive member of the Antigua and Barbuda Cricket Association, and General Secretary of the Antigua and Barbuda Football Association. He's a businessman, a father, a husband, a champion for the rights of the elderly, and a proud member of the St. Paul's community. Join me in welcoming our current Minister for Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Trade, our keynote presenter for this diaspora meeting, the Honorable E.P. Chet Green. Minister Green, the screen is yours.
Thank you, H.C. Hill. We recognize Mr. Antonio, who did the first part of the host of this meeting, President of the Antigua Barbuda UK Association, Mr. Everton George, Ambassador Davin Joseph, CEO of Tourism Antigua Barbuda, Colin James, staff at the High Commission, Diaspora Desk Coordinator, and former Member of Parliament, Elliston Adams, Ms. Petley Knight from the Festivals Commission, and Anita Flack from the Carifesta organization, along with Anthony Thomas from the Barbuda Rise Association. It's also fitting that I recognize and say hello, a warm Antiguan hello to Larry Gonzalez, and to thank Reverend Kate Kirby for the invocation and to wish God's blessings on today's proceedings. You know, I hear the HC repeating this notion of a featured address, You know, the word feature address suggests that I have some kind of prepared text, and I'm coming with some highfalutin discussions. I want to show you my people. None of that today. Today is a family meeting. From across the water in capital St. John's to the UK. This meeting is intended to bring Antiguans and Barbudans together in a forum where we express ourselves, discuss things of importance to our beloved land, Antigua Barbuda, and our shared interests. The creation of Diaspora Desk in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not a coincidence. I heard, for example, President George allude to the fact that the Antigua Barbuda Association was founded almost 54 years ago, in June 1967. Well, guess what? That's almost as long as I've been around. So it tells me that our people have always had desire to bond and to provide a level of support to the homeland. And that is commendable that today, almost 54 years on, that passion, that love, that desire to serve and to represent and to do all things Antiguan and Barbudan continues to exist in the bosoms, in the spirit of our people. I did ask the AHC at the start of this meeting how long we were going to be. And she told me we're only on for 90 minutes. And I guess she wondered why I asked the question. I asked the question for two reasons. One, you don't give a politician a microphone and expect the hush too soon. Secondly, well, three reasons actually. Secondly, I'm seeing friends who I've not seen for years, like Everton George. We have been denied a meeting because of the pandemic. And thirdly, more importantly, or most importantly, is that when I started talking to my people, I just can't hush. You know, we're into each other like that. Antiguans and Barbudans, we're just into ourselves like that. And an occasion like this allows for an exchange. But I promise you today, I will use brevity as my watchword, if only to allow you to ask questions at the end of the presentation. And so allow me to bring you greetings from Antigua and Barbuda, capital, from the Rock, and more so from the government, the Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers, to the diaspora community in the UK. Let me also, from the get-go, express sympathies to those family members, I don't know of the Antigua Barbuda family, who have lost relatives and friends in this pandemic period. It has been a very troubling period for the world. And we as a family, Antigua Barbuda, we've lost quite a number of our members, our family members. And I bring you sympathies from capital city, from the Rock. For me, as I said earlier, it's quite an opportunity to engage with the diaspora community in what I deem to be critical updates, listen to your concerns, address those concerns, and the only expectation I have is that we be respectful to each other, full stop. Our views do not have to congeal at all points, because in our differences, we can extract growth, if not strength. And so this afternoon, I want to outline for you a couple of things. One, I want to give you the assurances that the creation of the Diaspora Desk here in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is a deliberate creation to better serve, service, and connect with the diaspora community. There have been several intimations or iterations of this. There have been ongoing exchanges between successive governments and diaspora. I will be unapologetic to state that I want to be the minister of government, your minister, who gives life to diaspora relations, real and meaningful life to diaspora relations. But it can't happen by me alone saying so. It happens through us agreeing that the future of this country is inextricably bound up between those of us who live on the rock and those who claim ownership of the rock, albeit from a distance. What we've done in relation or in this regard is to form a working group comprising representatives from our respective diaspora hubs, namely New York, Miami, Washington, Canada, and of course the UK. And I commend you on being the first diaspora family to host a meeting of this type. I anticipate, I do believe that knowing High Commissioner Hill, other ambassadors and missions have been told of this meeting. I'm sure they're all logged on, and I'm asking that this be replicated across the hub to the extent that it really becomes a live and living creature. To facilitate much more of the exchanges that we anticipate, we're currently in the process of building a website. A website will give you a finger's touch of what's happening in Antigua and Barbuda. An interactive section, where you can make your necessary comments, observations, and contributions. And you'd have heard earlier from Elliston Adams, Nambalumbu Nambalala. He's the person who has been identified to lead this particular arrangement. And I ask diaspora communities to give him your full and total cooperation and support, because as I said, Manga is strong in Antigua and Barbuda, inclusive of our diaspora communities. As part of the build out, we want to give notice, and this is the sessions for independence in a major way come November 1, 2021. And so the diaspora desk will have a key and central focus with respect to the build out of the independence celebrations, the presence here of Petley and Anita Flack is not coincidental. The presence of Colin James from tourism is also not coincidental, but it forms a part of the intertwining of the respective offices that will make diaspora experiences what they ought to be. And I say ought to be because, again, like I said, it's about improving the relation between those of us who are resident on the rock and all of our citizens overseas. I could not address you today and not speak to the issue of health. And I've made reference to the losses we've incurred as a family, a people of diaspora family members, and even at home, because I'm sure you're aware that we have lost 28 souls to the pandemic here on the rock. Antiguans and Barbudans, anywhere we are in the world, share in common the sanctity of life. And so for every person we've lost is one Antiguan Barbudan citizen too many. I want to update you on the pandemic management. No doubt you've been hearing, reading, following, but on an occasion like this, an official occasion, I feel a sense of responsibility to advise of some of the steps taken by your government to manage this pandemic period. You're aware that our airport was closed in March of last year and we opened in June. There have been questions asked about why did we not close sooner and why did we open so soon? I want to demystify and debunk any notion that there was anything but responsible conduct on the part of the government. And by that I mean our dependence on tourism was cause sufficient for us to take or implement the measures we did with respect to the opening of the borders to allow for the nation's economy to have activities, needed activities to sustain lives and livelihoods. Having said that, I want to be very clear that from the very get-go, our position has been the primacy of life. Life before all else. We rebuilt the economy over time, and we'll have to do so again. But at every stage, we're very clear in understanding and stating that our first priority was on protecting lives. And so the opening of the airport to allow for some degree of economic activity also part of the mission, as we call having demand, was the economic pandemic. They're intertwined. You can't divorce one from the other because we need resources to manage the health side of the equation. And we need healthy bodies to manage the other side of the equation. And so the government made an informed decision. It was done in consultation with stakeholders at the cabinet. There was a meeting which featured all stakeholders or major stakeholders, opposition political parties, Chamber of Commerce, Employers Federation, trade unions, union of churches. And so the decision to open the borders until we did in March of 2020 was a concerted decision taken not only by the elected administration, but one in concert with stakeholder groups. The reopening of the airport was done after we had put in motion certain key protocols to ensure that we had the management issue of the pandemic under control. You would note, as a matter of interest, that notwithstanding the number of cases we've had to date, we have not had any major flare-ups in the tourism sector. And that is because in the tourism sector, all our hotels were not reopened, and those that were reopened were declared as biosecure spaces. In other words, all of the necessary protocols were put in place to ensure that persons coming to Antigua Barbuda as part of our tourism offering had the level of the measure of security with respect of the COVID pandemic. To date, today, as I speak to you, there are 20 new cases, 329 active cases, 743 recovered cases. As I stated earlier, 28 deaths, and an overall total of 1,100 confirmed cases. You'd have heard, and I wish to confirm today, that the government is embarked on a vaccination program. The intention is to have or to achieve what is known as herd immunity. We are some way off from that because our attempts to secure vaccines have not necessarily been the most successful. There is vaccine hoarding, vaccine nationalization across the world in those large countries, to include the one in which you live. We were fortunate that a friendly country in India provided us with some 40,000 shots or jabs. The first 5,000 shots we got in Antigua, I should note, came from Dominica, a friendly country, who had received 70,000 before we did get our supplies. And so we were able to start with 5,000 inoculations before other Caribbean countries, save and except for Dominica. Once we received our 40,000 shots, the nature of Antigua Barbuda as we know it, and I dare say our Caribbean nation state, is to share amongst ourselves. $25,687 persons. That number is not a holding number, because I speak to you, nurses are in our communities inoculating our elders, the elderly who cannot go to the centers for inoculation. Now, you would also have heard of the government's decision to inoculate more than 20,000 persons, because the AstraZeneca vaccine, as we know it, is a two-part vaccine, and the safe position is to inoculate 20,000 persons and hold 20,000 shots. Where we'll receive, and as such, based on the demand and the desire to inoculate and to achieve herd immunity, to inoculate persons over 65, to inoculate persons working in critical sectors of the economy, we have opted to inoculate an additional 7,000 persons. So the number that we seek to inoculate in this first iteration is 27,000 persons. We are strongly of the belief, the opinion, and satisfied in our own work and ability to deliver to the people of Antigua and Barbuda that we will have vaccines before April, when the second round of vaccinations become due. Already we have the COVAX arrangement with some 40,000 vaccines are due. We are told that the first order of that should arrive somewhere in the next 2 weeks. And so I want to ask you, my dear people, to breathe comfortably that based on all of the plans that have been made by your government, there will be no need for any panicking with respect to our ability to vaccinate 27,000 persons in the second go-round. The issue of quarantining remains part of our toolkit in managing the pandemic. Just yesterday, the cabinet decided that in view of the Easter weekend and our desire not to have any major problems, that we will not do anything or affect the current curfew arrangements. As I said, all our quarantine arrangements remain. We have invested in ID bracelets, traceables. And so we have done just about everything possible to ensure that our jurisdiction, your land, our land, remains safe with respect to our management of the pandemic. Today in the Parliament, witnessing what is happening around the world with a third wave, in the UK and other parts of Europe and South America have declared closure for the next 60, in some cases 90 days. We've extended in Parliament the state of emergency until June 30th. We know that speaks to the curtailment of certain rights, fundamental rights enshrined in Constitution. But there are times, as we all know, when these curtailments are necessary. I do not wish to go into the spike we had post-Christmas, because for me and for this meeting, what's important, the messages that are positive, the messages that are inspiring, and those things that we can do together as a family to improve our lot as a people. In the context of the extension of the state of emergency and the current protocols or curfew arrangements, beaches will remain closed for the Easter holidays. Again, what we're trying to do here is to manage any further explosion in the numbers. It is very important that we do this because in a few weeks' time, our schools reopen. Schools reopen in April. And yesterday's cabinet meeting, the Minister of Health reported that while the numbers still remain somewhat high, he's seeing, or the Ministry of Health has seen a downward trend. And so we anticipate that by the time the Easter is over and our people are to continue to be careful, to be responsible, we can see a further reduction in numbers. And once we can achieve reduction in numbers, it means that we can further relax some of the curfew restrictions. You have heard, of course, of the notion of some Antigua strain or variant. Let me go on record in this family meeting to thank High Commissioner Hill for her efficiency and effectiveness in debunking that silly notion which originated in the UK. And I'm using all of this descriptive language in a family meeting. If I spoke to the media, of course, I would not speak that way. But it's a family meeting, and the things you say in your house, you don't necessarily say in the street. But High Commissioner Hill was very effective in getting BBC to retract their statement, the British authorities to resile away from earlier comments, and to in fact put into context the fact that there is no evidence that this variant originated here in Antigua and Barbuda. The effects of it on our tourism product and promotions, of course, we all know. And that makes it all the more important the work done by High Commissioner Hill and her team. It speaks to a country's reputation. And you'd realize that throughout the pandemic, our management of this pandemic until Christmas was outstanding, if I may say so myself. And too often we're Antiguans and Barbudans, we don't take credit for work. We like to second guess ourselves. There's nothing wrong in blowing your own trumpet. As a matter of fact, a trumpet is a personal instrument. And you shouldn't allow anybody to blow a trumpet but you. And in that context, I'm saying that we did a damn good job as a country to manage the effects of COVID on our economy and our people. In Christmas, we dropped our guards, and so we saw a spike in numbers after. But I think we're now corralling around the fact that we need to restore some degree of normalcy and respectability to the management of the numbers. And as I said to you just yesterday in the cabinet, the Minister of Health reported that our numbers are dropping. We're still looking to get that 3 per week on average. We are now some about 12, I was told yesterday. And so there's work to be done. And from the diaspora community, may ask, well, why am I saying all this? How can you help? You can help as owners of Antigua and Barbuda by encouraging those of your family members and friends who are on the rock to stay strictly within the parameters of the protocols established by the Ministry of Health and by extension WHO, Pan American Health, and even the Caribbean Health Association, CAFA. I said to you that we expect to get vaccines within 2 weeks. And as we get those, I'm sure High Commissioner and her team will be sharing information. And you can see all the more reason why we need to promote the website and get it up and running. So those kind of critical information that you need to know about and to speak about in your promotion of or defense of Antigua Barbuda will be at your fingertip and something you can work with. The pandemic and the effect of the pandemic on our economy, it's known. What you may not know is the extent. And I want to say to you today that the economy of Antigua Barbuda shrunk in 2020 by just about 30%. Tourism being our major income earner, took a beating. The UK, one of our leading source markets, you live there, so you know exactly what happened with respect to the closures and openings and partial openings and the like. And of course, there was just no appetite for global travel at one stage. I want to commend Colin James and his team for continuing to be at the forefront of promoting Antigua and Barbuda to ensure that our name continues to be one of the premium names in that destination. And so I put a challenge to you, the Diaspora family. The challenge is simply that in all of your doings, in all of your encounters, in all of your circles of association, that you have an obligation, a responsibility. It's a matter of duty that you promote Antigua and Barbuda as safe, secure, and open for business. And I say this not with tourism, but for those of you who are in corporate UK, who have friends and associates who are looking to make investments, we are ready to welcome investments in our economy. Ambassador David Joseph, who will speak after me, will speak to an exciting project, one that we hope Antiguans and Barbudans in the diaspora will take interest in and make investments in the national economy and the recovery. We have easily lost 2 tourist seasons. 2020, lost. 2021, lost. Sailing Week, which will be now the issue of focus, 2021, lost. Carnival 2021, area ferry up in the air. Herd immunity, which means access to vaccines and the response to vaccinations, will have a lot to do with how much we can speak of Carnival by the end of April going into May. Because if we cannot do it by April, then we would have lost significant chunks of the celebrations where our artists are concerned, or mass builders and mass makers are concerned. We're not about just Bikini Carnival. We still take pride and cherish very dearly those wire-bending exhibits that make a part of our carnival. They make our carnival different. And so Petley and Annette, who will speak to Carrie Festa and Carnival respectively, will give you updates on those in terms of where we are, how we are progressing, and the very fact that though we continue to plan, Carnival 2021 is not a certainty, because the pandemic prevails. And the more protracted this pandemic becomes, the more it's going to impact and cut into life and living as we know it, Carnival included. Many of our hotels remain shuttered for obvious reasons. And with the shuttering of hotels is the corresponding job losses. And so that unemployment in Antigua and Barbuda has doubled, quadrupled even, because of our dependence on tourism, which is why I said to you, diaspora community, we need to have different levels and types of investment in the economy so we can diversify the economy and become a bit more resilient. The offshoot of all of this is government revenue. If the hotels are shuttered, unemployment affected, government therefore has a problem with revenue. And a problem with revenue means a problem with government services as we have come to know them. The government will have set up the ERC, which had set out some basic and broad parameters for a revived economic activity and for diversification of the economy. I will list 5 of the areas that were noted or highlighted by the ERC in their final report. 1 is embracing a more sustainable economic growth or growth policies. 2 is the diversified economy, particularly in the digital and blue economies. 3, strategies to increase productivity in both public and private sectors. 4, promoting food security through empowerment of farmers and agricultural entrepreneurs. And 5, improving telecommunications and providing unlimited data access to support work from home for e-commerce and e-payment and our online industries. The government, as a response to the COVID pandemic and the need to vary the economy to make it more resilient, we shifted slightly from our traditional tourism products and introduced what we call the NDR, the Digital Nomad Residency Program. This is a program where, rather than short stays as we know them, persons are allowed to come to Antigua, live and work in Antigua for up to 2 years. It has proved attractive just last week, and let me commend High Commissioner Hill again. The UK is certainly taking the lead in terms of the government's vision of rebuilding and repositioning the economy. Just last week, we had a diaspora, not a diaspora, but an NDR meeting targeting the UK market. And from my Office of Immigration, I'm told that there have been several inquiries and interest shown in this program. We'll continue to build this program because, again, as I said, it is new, it's innovative, and we need to think outside the box. This COVID pandemic, with all its challenges, have also brought with it opportunities. The opportunities, I must say, are not straight line. They are not the kind of thing that you see every day. And therefore, it requires a thinking outside of the box if you're going to benefit from the opportunities, which are not just they're hanging, the typical old jargon of because for that, if you're going to position yourself to a part of what is the changing environment in which we live and operate. I could not speak today to the Diaspora meeting and not address the Sister Isle of Barbuda. And so let me go back to welcome in this forum the Barbuda rep, who spoke eloquently and who embraced the concept of a diaspora desk. I speak here of Anthony Thomas. And I want to assure Mr. Thomas and all Barbudans that we are one country, Antigua and Barbuda. We may not always agree on the way we get to a destination, but the vehicle is common. It is Antigua and Barbuda. We can't avoid it. And so in the wake of the hurricane in Barbuda, I just want to give a quick update on some of the things or initiatives that we embarked upon as a government. We partnered with the UNDP to reconstruct and rebuild Barbuda. It is the first, and I want us to go on record to note, it is the first time in the history of any Caribbean country. I'll ask the scholars amongst us to do a study for hemispheric and global positions, that a government is building homes and gifting to people in this fashion. Building homes and gifting it to our citizens in the aftermath of the hurricane. We say it's very important, the whole issue of rebuilding Barbuda, and equally to rebuilding Barbuda, is to make in Barbuda, one, a green country. So there have been significant investments made in green energy in Barbuda. Barbuda, if the vision materializes, will become the first green country or island in the Caribbean. We also, not only UNDP, we partnered with China. And the People's Republic of China, our #1 development partners, also gave support to a roofing program in Barbuda. And so what happened there, that they assessed the homes for the level of damage, and those with roof damages, those were quickly fixed by the support of the Chinese, or with the support of the Chinese. We've also done several rehab work, infrastructure programs, thanks to the government of India, who also made resources available with respect to the post office, the Hanatama Hospital, and other facilities. I do not want to sound anything but modest, but here's where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs takes some credit. Because it's through ambassadors and high commissioners that much of the resources that were made available in Barbuda were actually secured. And so to High Commissioner Hill in the UK, and to our ambassadors around the world who have been working, who worked then and continue to work now, I know their work has been doubled because the pandemic has now caused a different focus. We're still trying to find resources in Barbuda. We're still trying to find resources with respect to vaccines. We're still trying to get development in the economy. And so our ambassadors are charged with really delivering on the expectations of people by leveraging our foreign service for the benefits of Antigua and Barbuda. You know from the UK that we also partner with the Princess Foundation and the Calvin Foundation to do again housing in Barbuda for displaced Barbudans. Work on the runway continues. And I want to pause to speak a little about the runway, PLH, and the economic development of Barbuda. At the risk of some political, make what is a national, but is a national position that I wish to emphasize to the diaspora community. Before taking office, Prime Minister Gaston Brown referred to Barbuda very often as diamond in the rough. Gave a commitment to me, economic activities, to bolster and make a stronger Antigua and Barbuda economically, financially. And we're seeing much of that happening today with respect to the PLH project, the build out of the airport, and the vision of having great attractions, tourism attractions on Barbuda, which will bring greater yield, economic yield and benefits to the people of Barbuda and Antigua, the nation of Antigua and Barbuda. I want to be very clear and stated that this ought not to be a controversial issue. I am not utopian. And so I'm not speaking in any simple, hopeful way. I'm speaking from a fundamental position, a fundamental expectation that our Twin Island states work together in tandem to bring benefits and development to its people. And so to the extent that an airport is built in Barbuda, major hotel developments and other accommodation properties are built in Barbuda, golf courses, and a build out in the tourism infrastructure. They are intended for the sole purpose of creating a stronger economy in Antigua and Barbuda. If Antigua alone, mainland that is, could over the years preside over what we all enjoy as some degree of success, we can all imagine when our resources are twinned and expanded to include the benefits coming from Barbuda, we will become the envy of the Caribbean. You will understand better the notion of an economic powerhouse. And so it is ours to do, but it can only happen with us working in concert, working together to ensure that our people, especially now that there's a global reset, we have to reset all our arrangements. I dare say to you, I'm no Nostradamus, I'm no Ezekiel, I'm no Daniel, but I dare say to you that all of the industries as we know them, tourism included, will not be the same post-pandemic. There are all kinds of shifts taking place in the geopolitics, in the industries. And so we have, as I said earlier, got to work smart or smarter to achieve greater benefits for people. Let me quickly look ahead before I wrap up at some of the major projects and policies of the government. And those, of course, I invite questions on, like any other part of my presentation, when the Q&A section comes around. We know the Global Port would have invested in the Heritage Key Pier. We know that we're expanding the cruise facilities at Heritage Key. And though there's a downturn in the global economy and a literal closure of the cruise industry globally, we're now reopenings in Antigua and Barbuda to come down. The investment in Heritage Key should bear fruit, and much fruit for Antigua and Barbuda, because as a major player in the cruise tourism sector, they will have a vested interest to ensure that their investment in Antigua and Barbuda reap rewards, and there's no way they can reap rewards and we don't reap. So I think we're well positioned with respect to the return of cruise tourism and the benefits that will accrue to our people. West Indies Oil Company and expansion. Today, I'm sure those of you who have gone online would have seen that shares in West Indies Oil Company today swing open to Antiguans and Barbudans, including Diaspora community members or family members. And so I encourage you to get online the West Indies Oil site and to make your investments. One of the things we're very concerned about and very conscious of is that a new diaspora relation desk will not be charged with a simple arrangement of policing and facilitating remittances. We are asking Antiguans and Barbudans diaspora to become major players, lead players in the national economic recovery efforts. We have heard since I was a child of us commanding or attaining the commanding heights of the economy. Well, this administration, your government, is serious about that cliche, about that becoming a reality. And so when shares, as they do today in West Indies Oil, become available, I'm counting, encouraging, expanding, family members, make your investments to the extent, because some of these shares might be sold regionally. But I don't want a situation that we sell shares regionally and next thing, St. Lucia and Kittish and others end up with the majority share we have, or the majority of shares are sold. I believe we have the capacity among ourselves to own all the shares we have as a people, and that's for family members. This is another charge I give to you today as your Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Relations, to avail yourselves of the opportunity to access the shares, buy the shares at WEOC. Since the government took majority shares back in 2015-16, it has been a profitable enterprise. It will forever be a profitable enterprise because our dependence on fossil fuel is real. And WEOC has the potential and capacity to expand. They don't only trade in Antigua, they also trade in Dominica, and are seeking to expand their operations in other nearby countries. The expansion of Deepwater Harbor, the new cargo shed, and the vision to transform that space into a transshipment hub is also another area which very shortly will open up with respect to opportunities for investment. We believe that our central location in the island chain, the Caribbean, places us in a very ideal position that we need to use to advantage. And so a new terminal at St. John's Deepwater Harbor is being constructed, is near completion. And the idea, as I said earlier, is to not only increase cargo lift into Antigua, but transshipment opportunities through Antigua to neighboring countries. A whole spiel of activities are associated. This meeting will not allow me to go through all of the opportunities because the whole build out of that waterfront already has potential for investment by diaspora members. And we want, as I said, not only to simply see diaspora communities having remittances sent monthly or yearly, but to be actively involved in the renewal and development of the Antigua Barbuda economy. The issue of and travel is a majority of our sub. And their demise by the others prove that point that we are the ones who really have to save and safeguard Liat, which has made such a tremendous contribution to our nation's development and our economic survival. And so it is work in progress. We give a commitment to the Antigua Barbuda people, diaspora community included, that we will do everything possible to safeguard and save Liat to the benefit and for the benefit of regional integration and the Antigua and Barbuda economy. You cannot have no modern civilization without air transportation. And if you follow what was happening with Liat when others decided to collapse it, is that other countries had their own vision, their own mission of how they wanted to redesign regional air travel. We realized that Liat's contribution to the economy is significant, and so we made a decision to save it, to protect it, and safeguard it. It comes at great cost, I must advise. Even sometimes when you talk about doing more in the pandemic period, doing more in employment, doing more. I want to remind us that one of the things that is causing significant, I wouldn't call it hemorrhaging, but significant strains on government resources is our decision to protect and keep Liat in the skies. The issue of other airlines into a marketplace, High Commissioner Hill, I want to commend you and your team and encourage you to continue with respect to attracting new airlines in Antigua Barbuda. And if we get more airlines in Antigua Barbuda long haul, with Liat as a locally based airline, further benefits for Antigua Barbuda as the movement from the hub of Antigua into the neighboring countries become a major consideration or part of the plan. I know you would have followed the developments of the University of West Indies, Five Islands campus, and I'm sure persons like Everton George and those who would have founded this organization, Antigua Society in England or Association 1954, will give great credit to the administration for bringing a tertiary institution, especially UWI, to our shores. It narrows the divide. It allows for people to secure tertiary training, just like Barbados, Trinidad, and Jamaica. And if we're going to build a powerhouse economically, or any kind of powerhouse, education has to be the very base and basis for that development. And so I don't think I need to expound on the values and virtues of UWI in Antigua Barbuda, but rather encourage diaspora family members to also see it as a place where our second and third generation Antiguan and Barbudan citizens can come for tertiary training. So they become a little more steeped in the traditions and the norms and customs, culture and heritage of your homeland. I can't tell you what the score is now at the stadium, but as I think of cricket, my heart is palpitating to think that we may lose the game against Sri Lanka. Notwithstanding that, if it happens to be that, I'm pleased to report to the diaspora community that since 2014, our country has been cricket hub Caribbean. every single year, barring none, since 2014, we've been hosting international cricket right in Antigua and Barbuda. We all know the value of cricket to the economy. It brings millions into our coffers. And the timeliness of the cricket matches in Antigua now are even more significant, as we have had to find other ways to grow the economy, to sustain employment. The one point I have not made in all of this presentation so far is the fact that notwithstanding the challenges that we face as a government and people, we have not laid off a single government worker after more than 1 year of continuous pandemic conditions. Notwithstanding the tumbling, cascading downwards of government resources and revenues, a commitment to maintain our people in employment has been so far matched by deed. I'll be honest and tell you, if the pandemic protracts, some of that could change. But I think as a people, I encourage us once again to tap ourselves on the shoulder for having been so meticulous, so thoughtful, so caring as to have kept every single government employee in their jobs. A matching requirement of productivity is a conversation that's ongoing, because you know that productivity is very important if we're going to be able to sustain the economy and the activities, even that of keeping persons employed. Ambassador Davin Joseph, I'm sure, will speak to the issue of the Willoughby Bay project. I hinted at it earlier, but it's an opportunity for diaspora members to invest at home and to own a piece of the rock while making critical contributions to the economy. I think it's all the time for diaspora family members to see investment important in this COVID period. We have to all give that level of commitment to rebuilding the economy, to stabilizing the economy, for adding resilience to the economy and to the lives and livelihoods of our people. I will take a pause now. As I said earlier, you don't give a politician a microphone and expect that he'll hush anytime soon. And talking to my own people and having not reported to you for at least, 2 years, I feel a sense of compulsion that I have to account for my stewardship. The Prime Minister gave me an office called Diaspora Relations. We are now activating it. And so I feel a sense of pride, a sense of responsibility to account to you for actions taken by myself as your minister, by your government, and certainly the performance of our country in this pandemic period. I will close by extending an invitation to each of you to be a part of the 40th anniversary of independence come November 1. And you may ask, what do I mean by invitation to be a part of? I will say it in the Antiguan way. Come home. I want to say in Antigua. Belong for you. Come home. And finally, as I invite you to come home, let me also invite you, for your safety, for the safety of your family and loved ones, that we all avail ourselves of the only known medical prescription for this COVID-19 virus. In other words, I'm suggesting that we all get vaccinated. It is through vaccination that lives can be saved. It's through vaccination that I can hopefully anticipate your arrival at VC Bird Airport for Independence 2021. Long live Antigua and Barbuda. Long live the diaspora communities of Antigua and Barbuda. Long live the UK diaspora community or family of Antigua and Barbuda. I remain at your disposal for questions, but more so at your disposal for the shared relationship, for the shared undertaking of rebuilding Antigua and Barbuda, our homeland. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Green. I'm sure that the listening diaspora would have been extremely pleased with the comprehensive, energetic, and passionate information that you shared with us. over the last few minutes. It's been really useful. And we have a couple of questions for you, Minister, but I'm going to ask for your indulgence. I know you have Parliament to get back to, but I'm going to ask our other speakers to quickly jump in here, just take a few minutes each to intervene. I want to start with Ambassador Joseph, Minister, with your permission, who is a special advisor to the Prime Minister and a former senator. He's also our Commissioner to the International Whaling Commission and our National Development Commissioner and our non-resident High Commissioner to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The ambassador is a skilled negotiator and advocate, and his expertise lies particularly in the marine space, anything around the area of marine transportation, oil and gas exploration, fisheries, international ocean law, marine jurisdictional issues, and of course, the blue economy. Ambassador Joseph was awarded the Order of the Rising Sun, gold raised with neck ribbon by the government of Japan, which is one of the highest orders that can be awarded by the Japanese government. And he's also responsible for an exciting and interesting project that the minister mentioned, which is called the Willoughby Bay Development Project. I'd like to invite Ambassador Joseph to give an introduction to this project. He has assured me that he will be back for a fuller brief with the diaspora. And this is just a taster of what this is about. So Ambassador Joseph, please, I welcome you to the screen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, first of all, let me state that all protocols are observed, and also to congratulate you for organizing this very important and interesting encounter. Also, I'd like to congratulate the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Diaspora, who have seen the wisdom in developing a channel whereby members of our diaspora in all international communities can truly participate in the developmental effort that is taking place in Antigua and Barbuda. This is very critical at a time when Antigua and Barbuda is moving towards a further step in making itself an economic powerhouse. And we are of the view in Antigua and Barbuda that a successful and sustainable economic powerhouse must be based on the talent and the investment ability of local people. The talent and investment ability of local persons translate into our local kin and kindred in our diaspora. The government is giving a renewed impetus and emphasis on the participation of our diaspora in national development. Last year, during the COVID pandemic, the Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda established the National Economic Recovery Program. This program provided the government with an excellent opportunity to carve out investment opportunities for locals and also for our diaspora. And one of the areas of excitement and great opportunities is the Willoughby Bay area, which is situated between St. Philip's and Freetown, Newfield, and Bethesda. This constitutes over 3,000 acres of land, of which 1,506 acres is devoted to the development of a city within the eastern area of Antigua and Barbuda. The development of this area will be very comprehensive, with elements of agriculture, elements of commerce, element of government services, exciting marine area in the Willoughby Bay itself, hotels and holiday homes, which we are hoping will encourage the diaspora to think about not only residing in Antigua, but to invest in the economy in this area so that they can get significant returns, and at the same time showing their national pride in developing on what the minister said, the island we call our home. I would also like to stress that this project, the Prime Minister and his cabinet have identified as an area where they're going to give priority to locals. And he have charged me along with the confidence of his cabinet, to ensure that the priority for the development of this area is exposed firstly to our nationals, including the diaspora. The president of your association mentioned that one of their functions is to encourage persons who want to take a holiday rather than going into Spain to come to Antigua. But let's think of it for a while. What we would like our diaspora to think about is not only to encourage them to come to Antigua, but to encourage them to stay in holiday homes that are owned by you, the diaspora members yourself. And that is what will be presenting, the opportunity for you to build homes in the coastal areas that you can, one, either live in or holiday in, but at the same time, use it for an investment opportunity where these very holidaymakers will be able to come and stay within either an Expedia arrangement or an Airbnb arrangement. So in that regards, most of the lands that will be available for housing will be made available to locals. And we will, in the future, as I say, Madam Chair, we will break down in more detail the amount of lands that it will be available in this area for the purpose of houses and homes. Within the Potworks Dam area, which is part of the development, we're looking towards tourism. One of the major things that we want to do is to highlight our development within the whole framework of our cultural heritage and economic diversity. So in this regards, we're looking at the history of the Betty's Hope area, the history of the tambourine tree close to the Bethesda village. And we all know the struggle and hence our conquest of our lands and our economy that took place at that tambourine tree between that we can showcase a very viable tourism product in that area by having a heritage train of the sugarcane belt area and the Betty's Hope Foundation and its buildings to highlight our cultural heritage, moving from the Bethesda tambourine tree, encompassing a 5-mile journey into Betty's Hope, and make it an educational tour that we predict we can attract over 500,000 tourists every year. So this is an enterprise that is ripe for development and intervention by our local people. The Falmouth Harbor is now saturated when it comes to yachts and maritime traffic. The Willoughby Bay Harbor is next door. And if you understand the history of the Willoughby Bay area, in that very area was once a town by the name of Bridgetown, where there was vibrant trading taking place. As a matter of fact, there are many persons in the Bethesda and the St. Philip's area who still have very, very small holdings close to the waterfront in the Willoughby Bay area and they abandoned after the town was moved into St. Philip's. Be that as it may, we see the Willoughby Bay area as the next frontier for the development of a marina for luxury yachts. The Falmouth Harbor is owned by local Antiguans, a group of local Antiguans. We want to provide the same opportunity for locals, including our diaspora, to look at these large-scale investments. No longer we should have a situation where both the provider of the service and those that are seeking the service themselves are expatriates. The tourists come, the tourists occupy buildings that are owned by people from the origins of the tourists. We need to break that paradigm. We need to encourage our people to invest so that we can accommodate in our own hotels, in our own marina, in our own holiday homes, the tourists that comes to our country. As far as agriculture is concerned, we're looking at a number of agro-industries in that area that can sustain the more than 5,000 residents that will be accommodated in the Willoughby Bay Development Project. So, Madam Chair, I'm welcome to bring my team back at a future time that is conducive for you and the diaspora to discuss in more detail this very exciting project. It is now being transformed from a project into an activity. And I would be willing to share a lot more information on this project with you so that you can then have it available for the diaspora in the due course of time. I'd like to thank you for the brief opportunity that you have given to us. And I'd like to extend further congratulations to the members of the diaspora who took the time off to attend this very important encounter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. And that is actually quite an impressive vision. And I encourage those who are listening to get involved in this and let's make Antigua and Barbuda and all it has to offer, not just for others, but for us. I turn briefly now to the CEO of our Tourism Authority, Mr. Colin James. Mr. James is a giant in the tourism sector and with a strong background in telecommunications as well. And he was named in 2016 the Caribbean Journal's Caribbean Tourism Director of the Year. And he has used his strong interpersonal and negotiating skills to great effect over the years to leverage new airlines, increase cruise tourism, and to build the product that we now know today as the Antigua and Barbuda tourism product. And Mr. James, I ask that you share some nuggets with the diaspora at this point as to what we can look forward to despite the pandemic. Mr. James, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Ambassador Hill. I just really want to say how grateful I am for the opportunity to share and be a part of this historic diaspora meeting this evening. Let me, if you would allow me, Ambassador, to accept the list of protocols that you have established. And I also would like to just send warm greetings to the folks in the diaspora, particularly have so many family members in Leicester, which I know they're probably tuning in and listening to, and it's really an honor for me to share briefly how here at the Tourism Authority, we have shifted our focus in the face of the pandemic. We really had to do quite a bit to change in Antigua and Barbuda because we were coming off of a very, very successful year. You know, the tourism industry in 2019 had experienced the best year that we ever had. 65% of our GDP, as you know, comes from tourism. And that year we had over 1 million visitors coming to Antigua and Barbuda. And the UK and Europe is our second major source market, largest source market. And we had about 81,000 visitors coming from the UK and Europe. So we were really doing very, very well. ECLAC had reported, you know, strong growth in Antigua and Barbuda. And then COVID hit. And so we saw that a lot of what we did the year before, and a lot of the energies that we had put into marketing Antigua and Barbuda were really not going to work. The borders were closed. We were not being in a position to work with our travel agent and our tour operator partners. There were travel advisories against traveling and that sort of thing. So we really had to go back to pack and to shift focus and to see how we could really turn things around. I saw this quote from Charles Darwin, and I think it's really insightful. It said, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the ones that are most responsive to change. And when the wind shifts, you just have to shift your sails and to do something differently. This industry is paramount to our country. So many people depend on it for their livelihood. And as Minister shared, the impact has been real. And so we have had to regroup and we have had to change and do things a lot differently. So we decided we had to come up with a very focused plan as to what we were going to do with our recovery plan. It had to be something that would optimize all the resources that we had, give us a good return on whatever limited funds we had to invest, and avoid a lot of the negative impacts that you see coming out of COVID. You saw Minister mention one of them with the false strain that they were attributing to Antigua and Barbuda. How do we mitigate against impacts like that? We had to get everybody involved, our partners, our assets, and have one coordinated effort in the recovery. And that's where the diaspora comes in, the visiting friends and family, as we call them in the trade, VFRs. You are key to the recovery. The fact that you've been locked down so long, the fact that you've been shut away from your loved ones is a great opportunity now, even as we reopen and things change, that we will welcome you back, and the opportunities, so many opportunities for you to visit Antigua and Barbuda and to share two of our beautiful islands with your colleagues, the folks that you work with, your other friends and family in the United Kingdom. So what did we do? We were very, very focused. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, there were frequently asked questions that we did. We put out videos, really responding to the trade, responding to the consumer, letting them know what was happening in the country. And that happened until our borders closed. While the borders were closed, we know we had to inform, we had to ensure. And while we were doing that, at the same time, we had to improve and inspire people to want to come back to the destination. We couldn't be doing any hard selling. We were doing messages in the sand. Our hearts were going out to the world. We were telling people to, just relax, revive, restore. We'll be here for you when you get back. And then we had to initiate a response. We did it very scientifically as well. We looked at the consumer sentiment. We analyzed what people were saying, what consumers were saying, and we started to do social listening so that when we came back with a response and we came back with an invitation to return to travel, we would be doing it according to what the social sentiment was saying. And so that led us to actually come up with our Your Space in the Sun campaign. People were saying they didn't want to be crowded anymore. When they went on holiday, they wanted to be by themselves. They wanted to be with their own family group. They wanted space to play again. And that's where Antigua and Barbuda came in. Telling our consumers and telling the trade and telling the folks in the United Kingdom, not all self-isolation is bad. The greatest escape would be to come to Antigua and Barbuda. We are broadening your horizons here. We're giving you that space to be yourself, space to heal. The pandemic has really taken a toll on people's mental abilities and their mental faculties. Space for your kids, space to be yourselves, and most importantly, space to reconnect with your friends and family that you haven't seen for such a very, very long time. So this was the campaign, and it has actually won awards from marketing agencies. It's one of the best and most creative campaigns to come out of the pandemic that we started using as we opened up. To open up as well, and the minister touched on that, we had to be very strong with our protocols. We had to make sure that our guests, and yourselves included, as you returned home, you knew that you had to have your test, your PCR test within 7 days. You had to have a face covering on the plane, and when you disembarked, you get health screened as you arrived, your hands sanitized, you name it. We did everything possible to ensure that we would give you that information, communicate that information to you, communicate it to the travel trade, the tour operators, the folks that you use to travel to these two beautiful islands, to know that you were well prepared and you understood what was required of you before you embarked on your holiday. So we had some success with the early open. We were the first Caribbean destination to open in June of last year. And most importantly, British Airways was the first European carrier to come back on the 1st of August last year. And so a lot of what we did during that time of lockdown was training, actually working to ensure that we had good protocols, actually working to ensure that the product was enhanced, the sanitization. Some of the policies that were adopted by Antigua and Barbuda were in fact used throughout the region by the Caribbean Hotel Association as the template for how to have proper sanitation, how to have proper health and safety protocols throughout the industry. And this was across from restaurants to hotels, you name it. And everybody had to be trained and certified before they open. And that was when we came up with our Sun Sea Safe certification, that every tourism industry type partner, type hotel, tour, excursion has to be certified for them to be reopened. And this is done in conjunction with the tourism officials as well as the Ministry of Health officials. Barbuda was totally included as well. We did some days of intense training in Barbuda to make sure every taxi driver, every person who did tours and excursions were trained, people who handled bags. And so we made sure that Barbuda was fully involved. as half Barbudan myself, Barbuda is dear to my heart, and to do everything possible to ensure that the folks on the sister island remain safe, even as we open our borders and we open our boards. So things have been happening in Barbuda. Minister Green mentioned the new airport is continuing. There's been a new island escape ferry, a new luxury ferry that's just started operating to Barbuda. Barbuda Ocean Club has started and has been employing quite a number of Barbudans and bringing a lot of much needed economic activity to the sister island. And also a new restaurant has opened up by Robert De Niro, the Nobu restaurant, which has been winning wide acclaim for the exquisite cuisine and really adding a new zest and a new product for Barbuda that we didn't have before. So having the protocols, making sure that the training and the certification is in place so that Barbuda takes its rightful place as the tourism industry goes forward. That was paramount for us. I also wanted to just briefly share with you this little video. It's a few minutes, but it's not very long, but it shows what we did.
Welcome back to Antigua and Barbuda, where you can have a fun, relaxing, adventurous, and safe vacation. We have taken extra steps to ensure that your stay is a great one, starting from the minute you arrive.
When our guests arrive, we conduct a quick evaluation and sanitize all baggage.
We disinfect all rooms, paying special attention to frequently touched surfaces.
My job is to ensure that everyone adheres to the new and more stringent policies, including social distancing.
Restaurants and bars already adhere to the high level of cleanliness, but we have added even more precautions, such as sanitizing menus after every use. That way, we keep each other safe.
We make sure that the shop is all very clean, everything is sanitized after they have handled it. We do exactly the same thing again.
Cleaning and sanitizing vessels before and after each excursion is now mandatory. We've added our health and safety measures as part of our welcome briefing.
Remember to follow all protocols, whether you are in your hotel or enjoying one of our many attractions, so we can keep your stay sun, sea, and safe.
Yes, so that's Sun Sea Safe. That's what we did, and that just brings everything together. They say pictures teaches portrays 1,000 words. I think a video does even 10,000. So you get an understanding of what we have done from a tourism standpoint to ensure that this nation is safe, but first and foremost that our people remain safe, even as we open our doors to welcome back visitors, and most importantly, to welcome you back as well as members of the diaspora. I know Minister Green touched on the dashboard and where we are with vaccinations and new cases and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to just highlight one point, and I think it's important to know that we have 25,000 people in Antigua and Barbuda already vaccinated. That is a quarter of our population. We rank, as of a few days ago, 12th in the world and the highest in the Caribbean as a rates for vaccination. And that's so important that as our people are vaccinated, the UK is at 42 out of every 100, we are at 25 out of every 100 persons vaccinated. So as the vaccines are received and people are really enthusiastic about getting safe and getting their vaccines, it makes us, puts us in a better position to present the destination as a great place to visit, where people first and foremost will be safe as they enjoy their holidays. I think it's important to note as well, and the minister did touch on that the cruise industry is being prepared. We have the 5th berth that was constructed during the lockdown. It's ready now to receive the largest ocean-going vessels there that they have, the Oasis class vessels, and they have talks right now because the cruise industry has suffered so much that as we put the new protocols in place and we put in these bubbles for people to move in as they arrive, the cruise industry is looking at having a summer season which they would not normally have, and at the same time looking at Antigua and Barbuda for home porting opportunities. We have inquiries from UK Airlines, UK-based cruise lines actually flying people in and sending them on their cruises from Antigua and Barbuda. So we are preparing, or we have been prepared to restart the cruise industry and to make sure that we restart it with a bang. The UK airlift as well, surprisingly has been strong. We saw some great lift coming out of the UK, particularly with British Airways in December. Just as things were beginning to improve, we had for the first time ever 2 flights from British Airways on Boxing Day and the week leading up to Christmas on one particular Friday. That had never happened before. I'm just saying this to say that the airline industry and the travel trade, particularly in the UK, has a lot of confidence in Antigua and Barbuda as a destination that's safe, as a destination that's open for business again, and as a destination where they can send passengers to. So there are 2 weekly flights right now from British Airways that overnight in Antigua and return the next day. From summer, British Airways has planned to put on 6 weekly flights, and by the winter season, this winter season, they'll go back with a daily service. We also are in high state of negotiations with the European airline for service out of Manchester, which I know will be good news for the folks in Leicester and Birmingham and the Midlands, where it's much more convenient to travel from Manchester rather than from London Gatwick. Virgin Atlantic has suspended their service to Antigua as well as the rest of the Caribbean now during the lockdown, and they plan to return later with four flights per week. The yachting industry as well, some very strong protocols were developed for the yachting industry. And so we are ready to start. A lot of yachts are here right now who still come to the region for charters, but unfortunately we can't have sailing week, we can't have any activities that really have people congregating too much together. But the point is that we are prepared here in Antigua and Barbuda to restart our industry in a very, very safe and meaningful way. And Minister did touch on this, the digital nomad program, which we have rebranded in tourism as Business on the Beach. And I really wanted to share this because I think this is attracting a new cadre of folks. Everybody is working remotely. I'm working remotely right now from my home. I think there's going to be a lot of office space up for rent at the end of this pandemic because particularly in the metropoles, companies are seeing that you don't have to be in any one physical location to work effectively. All you need is a good internet, a great telephone service, and you're good to go. And so we find that a lot of Brits in particular are working remotely, and I know a lot of you in the diaspora are working remotely. So this program is also for you. It's a great way to relocate, to come here to Antigua and Barbuda, to be doing your business literally on the beach, being able to work remotely, work effectively, and what you do at the same time is add to the economy here. You'd be renting an apartment or you'd be renting a second home, and just really being as strategic as you were originally in your home country, and at the same time contributing to our development. So that is a great product, and it is part of the new normal that we see coming out of the pandemic, which the Tourism Authority is pushing very, very heavily and very strongly. And again, your space in the sun, this is just a brief look at what we did, 30 seconds of how we positioned this destination. Some place that we like celebrating. So I'd like to take this opportunity to invite all of you, whether you're in Leicester, London, whatever part of the UK, Birmingham, Derby, wherever, you are invited to come home and to come home soon, to experience two of the most beautiful islands in the world again, to reconnect with your family, to find your own space in the sun. And also for those of you who might have lost loved ones, do accept my sincere condolences, but this is a great time to reconnect and a great time to heal mentally and emotionally, is to come on home to Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you again, Ambassador, for the opportunity. And thank you again, folks in the diaspora, for this brief opportunity for me to give you an update of what's been happening on the tourism front in your homeland, Antigua and Barbuda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James, for that extremely beautiful presentation and insightful. I saw Anthony smile when he saw the pink sand, because he knows that pink sand could only be Barbudan pink sand. We're going to move quickly to our final two speakers, and then there are a few questions. I promise you we won't be staying here till 10 o'clock tonight. I promise you that faithfully. I'm going to invite Mrs. Petley O'Keefe-Knight, Director of Festivals in Antigua and Barbuda, to share about some upcoming activities that you may just want to put in your calendar and travel down to Antigua to enjoy later on in the year. Petley is a tourism and cultural giant on Antigua and Barbuda, and I'm sure that you will enjoy what she has to share about activities to come. Ms. Knight, over to you.
My apologies for that. I am just going to share my screen with a short presentation. So, good afternoon and good evening to everyone. And today, I would just like to thank everyone for coming and to observe all protocols. So, today we're just here to talk about our upcoming events that we're planning here in Antigua and Barbuda. And just to give you an overview of the Antigua and Barbuda Festivals Commission, we are under the auspices of the Ministry of Education, Sports, and the Creative Arts and the creative industries. And our aim is to foster a continuous schedule of national events designed to highlight and advance all components of our nation's culture. And our business is really for entertainment, domestic, regional, and international audience. So we cater to everyone. We do several events, all our national events, but the main ones, the primary ones that we do would be our One Nation concert, Antigua's Carnival, and of course, our National Independence. Looking ahead to 2021 and 2022, during the conversations and the presentations today, we would see that there's a lot of uncertainty based on the current conditions that's worldwide. And Carnival 2021, as the minister also alluded to, is no exception. We are still currently planning if we're going to have this event, and if we're going to have it, what sort of form are we going to have it in? Would it be a virtual event or will it be a live event? So currently we do not have a final word for 2021, but we will make an official announcement by May of this year. So we look forward to our independence, our 40th year of political independence, because we are hoping, all fingers crossed, that we will return to normalcy. And this is a great opportunity that I'd like to use to invite all of you to return home for our country's 40th year of independence. We realize that 40 years is a journey, and it's a good time for us to reflect and to really understand the milestone and all of the sacrifices that was made from our forefathers and how it impacts how we live today. And so this year, we are aiming to achieve these objectives through art, our public rediscovering our national treasures, our national games that a lot of us have forgotten. I am sure that you too might be experiencing this whole takeover of devices. And a lot of the times our young people, they're not even in touch or inclined to know the history. And so this year, we are looking to really address these concerns. We're also going to speak about our pivotal moments, some of our pivotal moments in our nation history, just to address a few. Because we are hoping that at the end of this year, our 40th anniversary, that patriotism, that national pride that we talk about a lot, but we're not really connecting to, that we're really going to bring it together. So starting August, our nationals and visitors, we will give them 40 plus historical treasures to find. So it's like a treasure hunt. And basically, with this, each item will have a description. Because a lot of the times we don't even understand what the watershed year was about. We don't understand the role our trade unions played in where we are today. So we are going to put this all back into the hands of our people and in the forefront of their mind. And they will be encouraged to take these pictures and to share these pictures. And it's a great tourism activity as well as a great national activity. In August, we're also going to have a mural exhibition. And what this is about is that we're going now to our secondary schools, the art classes, and we're going to ask them to interpret a moment of history through art. And so if you can picture the Antigua recreation grounds, the South Wall, as you're driving or walking down, we're just going to take you through a journey of history. We are also going to be, we are also going to start in September a major countdown. My apologies, my hand went on the wrong thing. We are also going to start a major countdown. We call it 40 days to our 40th year of independence. And during this period, you will be exposed to exhibitions, through festivals, through worry tournaments. So it's not just about planning for a week before our independence celebration. You'll have a nice long journey to plan and to just come home and experience what our country's historical journey was or is about. Now, our heroes, their wreath laying ceremony, this will be held at Thomason Estates. Now, this house was once the home of the father of the nation, also our Premier George Walter, and also Moody Stewart. Now, if there was ever a controversial home in Antigua, it's this home. So for some of us who believe in Jumbi, just imagine the conversations that might be happening up there at this point. Now, while we're here, permit me to camp out for a moment, because I strongly believe that this forum has the expertise and the resources to assist with the restoration and refurbishing of this iconic historical site. Now, if the Diaspora decides to partner with us, this will leave an indelible mark by playing a key role in turning this estate into a museum. And this partnership will be momentous, especially if we launch it in this, our 40th year of independence. Also to look forward to for our 40th year is our ceremonial parade. This will be done in the evening, and it will be returning that nostalgic feeling for many who experienced that historical moment back in 1981. And for those of us who did not experience that evening, it will take us back right there. So right after we do a ceremonial parade, there'll be a fantastic display of fireworks, just like it was 40 years ago. On the 1st, for the food lovers, the Vivian Richards Stadium, the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium will come alive with our annual Independence Food Fair. That particular food fair has seen upwards of 15,000 people. And everything Antiguan and cultural you can think about, you will find it there. From the asham to the sugar cakes to everything that you can think about local, you'll find it there. So once you're in Antigua, come and experience that. I'll go to our next major event that we do, and this would be our One Nation concert. It's designed to bring unity to the many nationalities that we have here in Antigua and Barbuda. And this concert has seen upwards of 10,000 people come into recreation grounds as we transform those grounds. We have featured some of the biggest artists internationally, as well as our local artists. This transformation of the ARG gives an experience that is sure to leave goosebumps. The talent that we have in Antigua, it always raises you're here, it gives us excitement. So come and experience our One Nation concert. Now we all know that Carnival 2021, if it happens, when it happens and how it happens, it would not necessarily be what we're accustomed to. But we are inviting you to come to Antigua in 2022 because that will be an epic year. A year that will be larger than life, especially for events. One such event would be our carnival. We're not holding anything back. That is our year where we're going to show off. And in preparation of this year, we would like you to look forward to amendments in our parade routes because we're looking for a better experience, the safety of our participants as well as our spectators. We are also looking to include tailgate stations and viewing stations. So when you come with your family, you can set up your tent, you can have your little barbecue there, and you're just enjoying the parade. We're also going to include more cultural productions. This is something that we have been pushing because we do not want to be classified as, the minister would have said, a bikini type of carnival. There is so much more. Our pan music, our pageantry, our calypso, our stilt walkers, all of these. So we're going to showcase them more in 2022 and beyond. We're also going to focus more on a cultural street parade. So we're going to create a fantastic separation. Remember, right now, Antigua has 3 days of revelry. And one of those days, we are going to focus a lot on our cultural presentation. So in closing, I would like for you to spread the news, let persons know that we here in Antigua, we're ready, we're open for business. We have lots of activities to do so you can enjoy, and we look forward to welcoming you home. Thank you, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. And to our final please go up.
Sorry, I just want to mention, I'm sorry, please follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. There you'll get our calendars and our updates. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. And I'm going to ask all the presenters to share their slides so we can share them with persons who took part. Let's get to our last speaker now, and we'll take a few minutes of questions after the ministers graciously agreed to stay. And our final speaker is Ms. Annette Flack, who heads up our CARIFESTA plans. Annette is a veteran in the field of tourism. She has served as our coordinator of Carnival, as our director of culture, and is now director for the Caribbean Festival of the Arts. So she'll tell us a little bit about that and bring us home with the final presentation before we move into questions. Mr. Flack, over to you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good evening to the Diaspora in London. On behalf of the CARIFESTA Secretariat, I bid you warm greetings and permit me to have all protocols already established. It would be remiss of me this evening, to make my presentation without congratulating the Honorable Minister Chet Green and his team for setting up this diaspora desk in his ministry. I think it would go a long way in connecting our peoples who are in the diaspora back home, and especially with the offices that will work with them to bring them home for festivals, for culture, for CARIFESTA, for tourism, for relaxation. I think it's a great, great initiative, and I look forward to working with that office as well. Today, I'm here just to give you a taste of what CARIFESTA is about. CARIFESTA is the largest Caribbean festival, which is hosted every 2 years. Antigua won the bid way back in 2017 to host CARIFESTA in 2021. It was then led by the late Vaughan Walter, of whose position I have assumed since his passing. And we are now looking to host CARIFESTA 12 to 22nd August 2022. Initially, it was for 2021 August, but as you can imagine, COVID has taken the better of us. And so we will now look forward to doing it in 2022. I'm here mainly to say to you today that we need to encourage persons in the diaspora to come home for CariFesta. Come home as a visitor, come home as a returning national. But more so, we'd love to have your involvement because CariFesta does everything in arts, every single thing you can think of culturally. So I'm sure we have lots of artists out there, lots of sculptors out there, lots of artists musically inclined as well, who would love to be a part of our CariFesta, and we'd love to have you here participating as well. And to cut the long story short, I would just put some slides up on the screen where we can just basically show you what happened in 2019 in Trinidad and just whet your appetite with some lovely pictures that were taken. So if the person at the helm could just go straight to the screen with the pictures. The baton was handed to us, the Honorable Minister, in 2019, and we took the mantle from there. We were way ahead while COVID took the better of us, so we are prepared. We are going to have what is called a grand market, which will be held at the Multipurpose Cultural Center. That is where everything Caribbean will be on display. Every single thing from food to drink, to art, to craft, to literary, to books, anything that you can think of that is part of your culture and the Caribbean's culture will be on display come August 2022. I would just like to also say to the president of the association in London, Mr. George, incidentally, CariFesta started in 1967, which makes us 54 years, just like your association. So there's some synergy there that we need to catch up on. And it was first held in Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, Suriname, Haiti, St. Kitts, are most of the countries that have hosted. It's going to be our first in Antigua and Barbuda. And we really want to show the world what we have and embrace our cultural brothers and sisters in the diaspora and in the CARICOM region and let them feel welcome to Antigua and Barbuda. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming to this meeting tonight. I promise HC that somewhere in the middle of the year and more so by November, we will have every answer to your questions as how do you get here, what packages are available in our hotels, where do you stay, what can you expect, what nights are the activities, who is showcasing what on what nights. All that will be available definitely by November, but I just need you to put on your calendar 12th to 22nd of August, 2022 for CariFesta. It comes on the heels of our carnival. So those of you who have a little more time, it would be lovely if you could come for carnival and stay for CariFesta as well. Have a good evening and thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Flack, and for painting that wonderful picture for August next year. I'd like to kick off the question and answer segment. I promise everyone that we will wrap up at 9 o'clock UK time so that you don't have to oversleep tomorrow morning. But let me actually put the first of the questions to Minister Green. And I'm going to ask Minister Green to respond to a couple of questions that we have here on the board. I'm going to put two questions to you initially, Minister Green. The first one has to do with economic diversity. Someone wants to know, given the downsides to tourism that the pandemic has demonstrated, what are our plans to diversify the economy of Antigua and Barbuda? And I think there's a second question that's almost closely related, asking about investment opportunities and whether there's a place where all of these opportunities are listed for the diaspora to consume. Minister, could you assist us with those two questions, please?
Yeah, thank you, HC. Let me commend the speakers who followed me in the early session. Presentations, and I want to commend the interventions. Diversifying the economy. To that, you heard, but I have the right of information. We're looking at a couple of areas, and I did mention them from the ERC report, at least a few of them. Currently, we're looking at the Carib Brewery to have a brewery plant set up in Antigua. The first product should be rolled out the production line by January, or first quarter rather, of 2022. All of the agreements are in place, the concessions given, commitments given. So that's one area of diversification. We are also inviting, and this one is for the diaspora community, an investment in the area of paper products, toilet tissues, facial tissues, paper bags, you name it. This whole new arrangement of, and styrofoam containers in Antigua. And so there's this new material that they use to make this biodegradable material used to do food and the like. Fighting investment in that area. And that our laws allow. The whole question of food processing. We also diversify the economy in the area of agriculture. We have always had some level of agriculture. We have boast about the pineapple being the sweetest in the world, but we've never done any wide scale or massive production of the Antigua Black. As a matter of fact, there's now a university study going on jointly to sort of improve the yield and the texture of the black pineapple. So agriculture is one of the areas we're going in diversifying the economy, as well as agricultural or food processing. With all of the agricultural activities going in the country now, it's important that we have some ability to store, to package, and to process. And so that's been created. Opportunities in innovation, opportunities in the blue economy, opportunities in health and wellness. Those are some of the areas. I mean, I could go on, but in the interest of time, and to answer the texter, the whole concept of regional economy and diversity economy is clearly a part of the mission right now, as we realize the challenges of tourism and into the foreseeable future, where tourism might not necessarily be the same as we've known it. As to a place where one can access information opportunities, the Antigua Barbuda Investment Authority is the national hub where information can be sought or garnered for persons with that interest. Here at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and certainly from the Diaspora desk, we're also making sure that kind of information becomes available from the Diaspora officials here to the Diaspora community.
Thank you. Could I ask you also to respond while you're on the screen, Minister, to this question about China? One of our diaspora members said that he or she is grateful to China for all of their help, but they are concerned that we might become a little part of China. Our sovereignty is something to cherish. There should be no weapons placed on Antigua and Barbuda. It was more an observation than a question.
Weapons placed on Antigua and Barbuda? What is that?
Not sure, Minister, but that was.
Okay, let me respond to that. Our foreign policy is very, very clear. We are friends of all, enemies of none. And in the context of our development, it must be noted by our people that China is the only country, I repeat, that consistently provides development assistance to Antigua and Barbuda and other countries around the world. We will not compromise our integrity. We will not compromise our sovereignty. And the construction of the Chinese embassy in Antigua is a strategic decision on the part of Governor Antigua and Barbuda to lure greater investments and opportunities for Antigua and Barbuda's people. We're trying to build out a diplomatic area, zone. And so to have larger countries like China and so on having embassies in Antigua and Barbuda is not anything to do with compromising our sovereignty, but more to do with a principled position, a strategic decision to allow for our country to be a base for diplomatic services. There will be no arms allowed in our country by no country. The last time that happened, the United States of America had a base in Antigua and Barbuda. That agreement has come to an end. It is one which I dare say we would not necessarily want to countenance again, because those don't bring benefits to you. We're looking at benefits for people as opposed to being any kind of military hub or facility. And so let me show the writer. Again, I'm repeating for the sake of clarity and emphasis that the Chinese relationship with Antigua and Barbuda has nothing to do with anything more than our leveraging our foreign policy diplomacy exactly benefits for our country. No compromising of standards. We have had endless occasions and instances when we do not see eye to eye with China, but we don't go publicize it on the radio. we do as friends, we speak and we are very clear on what we support, what we don't support. In the United Nations, where we, for the most times and most parts, China on occasion eye to eye, when they ask us to sponsor or support a resolution, we say we can't because it's inimical to our interests. And so please, rest assured, as your foreign minister and a part of a government that has Antigua and Barbuda's best interests at heart, we have not and will not compromise our integrity nor our sovereignty of our country and people.
I'll put one more question to you, and then there's a couple of questions I have for Mr. James. There's a question that the government is currently sponsoring the test matches in Antigua and Barbuda. A, do you think it is morally right that they should be doing this? B, there are people suffering hardship, no job, no money. What is the benefit to Antigua and Barbuda during this pandemic? And C, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, are they watching these matches free on ABS television? Question around cricket.
All right. The first response to that question is to debunk and demystify the notion that we're sponsoring the cricket in Antigua. We are not sponsoring the cricket in Antigua and Barbuda. We are hosting the cricket in Antigua. We are fortunate to have 2 international venues. And to the caller or the writer, sorry, who invariably is Antigua and Barbuda citizen, we are the envy of the other Caribbean nations who are trying to host these matches. These matches come at a very important, opportune time when the economy is fluttering and bring significant benefits to the country. The first benefit is in travel taxes. The second in accommodation and hotel expenses. Third, the whole question of transportation, in catering. The stadium is, as we know, the stadium is closed to the public because that is new pandemic rules. And so the benefits that we would normally accrue are reduced. But it is not Antigua and Barbuda paying to host cricket, but rather cricket paying to play in Antigua and Barbuda. And so for those who are jobless, I can assure the writer that the hotels on the eastern coast of the country, Veranda and Pineapple, those hotels are chock-a-block. They're full. They are leased out by the Cricket Association, the Cricket West Indies. The workers there could attest to that they are working, fully engaged. I'm sure that they're all counting down the days before the cricket leaves the country, and hope that we could get more cricket matches to the country. The benefits to our people in this pandemic period. Not to mention, and I must mention, that cricket is part of our culture, our heritage, rich. It means a lot to us. And to be able to host matches at a time when other Caribbean countries, because they don't have two venues, can't do so, place us again at an advantage. And it speaks to a vision of your government for having invested in these facilities and the opportunities created by hosting at this stage. And so when we have this kind of arrangement, it means that future matches on the pandemic conditions will also come to Antigua. And I may be bold enough to say that having hosted these matches in pandemic conditions, we anticipate that Cricket West Indies will bear note of that fact and continue to use Antigua and Barbuda as a host for matches into the future. The other part of the question was what? Remind me.
Whether the cricket can be seen for free on local television in Antigua.
Yes, Antiguans and Barbudans who have the Flow service. We have 2 major cable providers, Flow and Carib Cable. The persons who have Flow service can watch cricket ball by ball. And question about morally right, I mean, the fact that we're not paying to host, the fact that the benefits accrue to our people, I think that nullifies the notion or the question of morally hosting cricket, because cricket, of and by itself, is certainly something that we look forward to in this country.
Thank you, Minister. If I could ask Mr. James to take 2 quick questions. One is, can we get some rental options between permanent and weekly for the digital nomads? This is a trick Antigua is missing. Some 3-month tenancy options versus as what happens in Chiang Mai in Thailand, where most of them hang out. And the second question, do travelers have to quarantine? So, I know the nomad program falls on the Minister Green, but as you mentioned it, Mr. James, somebody is asking you specifically about that. Mr. James,
let me deal with the quarantine one. That's quite easy. If you one of the reasons why we had that very thorough process of certifying properties that are open is that they have to go through a rigorous training. They have to go through rigorous sanitation protocols to be able to host guests in a sort of a bubble environment. So once you're holidaying in Antigua and Barbuda from the UK, whether you're from the diaspora or you're a regular Brit who has never been here before, and you stay at one of those certified properties, you can move around and you can enjoy your holiday. You can go on certified tours, as we indicated in that video. You can go to certified restaurants that are open. And so you can have your vacation and experience that. If you are coming to Antigua and Barbuda and you're going to be staying with your family and friends, you will have to undergo the quarantine position, where you will be asked to quarantine for 14 days. And following the 14 days, you're monitored. There is a bracelet that you wear that takes your temperature and reports it back to the central command station. And once you have undergone your 2 weeks of quarantine, then you're free to be released into the community. And that's important because we want to protect our local people from any type of exposure. And I think that was one of the reasons why we had a spike in December, when we had folks who came in for Christmas. A lot stayed with friends and family, moved around, and unfortunately some might have been exposed and caused a surge in transmission. With regards to the hotels, I would say yes. As again, every hotel that is open, whether it's an Airbnb, it's a holiday apartment, it's a mom and pop little room that's being rented, it has to be certified by both the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Tourism for it to be listed. So there is a list of those certified properties at the airport, which is checked against every visitor who arrives. Once you're listed on Airbnb, the tendency is, if you're staying at a location for a longer period of time, you pay a lower rate. For example, Airbnb might be quoting your rate of this, for example, £1,000 to stay at a particular apartment or a flat for a month. If you are staying for 3 months, you would find automatically the rate is calculated at a lower rate. But with most properties, I think it's important you reach out. Once you can make contact either on their website or via email, and you are going to be staying with them for 3 months, I think that's available, that you can negotiate and get the best possible rate. Most landlords do that. But again, the only properties that you can stay at, which you will be not allowed to undergo the mandatory quarantine, would be properties that are certified in handling and operating in the post-COVID environment. I hope that answers the question, but yes, we are open to that type of feedback, and that's something that we can certainly discuss with our local hotel associations, and particularly the smaller hotel and association that handles most of the properties which are owned by Indigenous Antiguans.
Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to ask Mr. Flack to take a very quick question that someone asked about Carifesta. Will Antigua build a village for Carifesta, and if so, where will it be?
Antigua is going to build a village, but it's already situated at the multi-purpose center. We are going to have huts that are going to be prefab, bringing in, where all the persons with their arts and crafts, the food, everything will be able to display there. And as I said, we're going to extend the multi-purpose center as what is known as the Grand Market. All other venues, there are 9 other venues that we have also earmarked, the Botanical Gardens being one, the stadium for the opening and closing ceremony. You also have the Youth Village, which might be at one of our schools. High school is temporarily earmarked, but there can be changes. We are going into English Harbor as well. So we're going to basically carry Carifesta throughout the island for everybody to get a taste of it. But the main events will be at the Grand Market, which is the Multipurpose Cultural Center. I hope that answers the person's question for the time being.
Thank you, Director. I think it does. Minister, I'm going to give you the final word. And in your wrapping up, I want to just throw a few of the outstanding questions to you to see if you could find a way to address them. Someone has asked about our links with African countries. Has Antigua and Barbuda developed any links with African countries? Someone wanted to know about increasing exports to the UK and what would we supply under these types of export arrangements. There was a commendation that we have done well with the vaccines, better than the EU, based on the figures that were shared today. Minister, there's a question about recruitment as well. Someone says that they have expertise in working in the police force around issues of diversity. and they have many skills and would love to see opportunities for persons like them to support Antigua. How can they find out about working in law enforcement in Antigua? I think it's not fair to give you so many minutes, but I just want people to know the questions have been. Minister, could you respond to those and wrap up among those sorts of questions, please?
All right, let me, Karen, first thank you and your staff for this exercise that we so ably undertook today. To thank the other presenters for sharing in this mission and this vision of building a stronger diaspora platform and community. To renew my commitment as Minister responsible for the subject, to ensuring that our diaspora community in the UK and all the diaspora hubs are better served and better connected to the base that is the rock, Antigua and Barbuda. I want to also use the opportunity, as I did in closing, to encourage us to all become inoculated, which is again the only known medical intervention with respect to this pandemic. I believe, and I can speak on everybody's behalf here, we believe that this too shall pass, but preparing for its passage is very important. We can't sit with our heads in our laps, just hoping and wishing, praying for the pass. We have to take certain steps to ensure that after it passes, we are positioned, if not better positioned, to deliver for people and our country. The question of Africa and relations with African states or countries. Yes, in 2020, that was a mission that we set ourselves in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to develop close ties and relations with the African states. In 2020, in keeping with that particular mission, I was invited to Ghana. Part of the independent there, African mother. I make it about King Frank, and the relations with Ghana started. We actually signed diplomatic relations with Ghana. We will continue in 2021. And much of our efforts were thwarted last year by the pandemic, but it is something that we'll continue to do because we believe that not only the economic opportunities that exist in Africa today, but the ancestral relations need to be rekindled, and we seek ourselves out anew. And so for all those reasons, the question of closer relations with Africa, diplomatic relations, commercial relations, and certainly ancestral relations, West Africa in particular. The question of UK exports and what we can from Antigua export to UK, it is something that I want to engage the diaspora community in. Because if we're producing on this side for export to that side, I believe those on that side can better inform us and advise us of what are the things that you think we should be looking to export to the UK and in what quantities. In other words, you make the underground contacts, and I dare say agricultural produce will be one of the areas. And so make the contacts. I know years ago we had a thriving agricultural trade between the UK and Antigua. The whole question of HAPSAT and all that interfered with it. But we need to really come of age, and to the extent that we need to improve our phytosanitary machinery, we have to just do that. The Bureau standards here in Antigua and Barbuda is very, very gung-ho. They're doing some excellent work, changing the face of standards. And so I think we're better positioned now to do much of that trade between the UK and Antigua. We also have the existing trade agreements, both UK and EU. And so that in itself presents an opportunity for expansion of the economy and for opportunities for some person or persons of Antiguan lineage in the UK and further across Europe to get into the import-export business, importing from Antigua and perhaps further exporting throughout other European states. The commendation on the vaccines and our ability to inoculate almost 27,000 persons to date, it is one I take with humility. I will share with colleague ministers, especially Minister of Health, and encourage that we continue to show that level of interest in the health and well-being of our people. I can't overstate it, and I will do so at the risk of sounding like a stock record. Please, Antiguans and Barbudans in the UK, please, Antiguans and Barbudans in the diaspora communities, use the opportunities available to get vaccinated It is the only thing known to man today to deal with the issue of the pandemic. For the question of the Antigua and Barbudan citizen or a diaspora family member who has experience in diversity issues and will have worked with police force in the UK, I assume it is. Yes, the police force in Antigua and Barbuda sure could be approached with respect to using your skills, your training, because this again is a part of the development and growth of Antigua and Barbuda, the sustainable development and growth. We have to tap into those resources, human resources that are available to us. And very often we hear the notion that foreigners get this high position and foreigners get that position. We want to see more Antiguans who have excelled, who have achieved tertiary training, who have garnered experience, come back or make themselves available. You don't have to necessarily relocate for forever. You can just simply relocate for the purpose of an assignment. And so we expect to benefit more from the skill sets of Antiguans and Barbudans in the diaspora as we build out, build back, and build better the national economy. H.C. Hill, again to you, to your staff, to all the diaspora family members in this session, I will end with my admonition to you that the big anniversary 40 independence, which happens on November 1, 2021, is one for you to just simply come home. God bless.
I will add nothing more, Minister, other than to thank everyone for staying the course. Thank all the speakers. Thank you, Minister, for making yourself available, notwithstanding Parliament in session. Wish everyone a safe evening. And any questions that weren't answered, please feel free to send them through still to Antonio. I will get them to you. And I want to say a special thanks to Antonio and Jamal, who've been behind the scenes, keeping the technology going. And I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon in Antigua and a wonderful evening in London. God bless and take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation, HC.
All the best. Mr. George, the cricket is going okay?
227 for 4.
Okay, it should be a draw.
Last overs. Last hour.
It'll be a draw. It'll be a draw.
Yeah, it'll be a draw. Okay, take care.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you, High Commissioner Hill, for the invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony, as always. Thank you.
Again for more.
Reverend
Thank
Kirk,
you to all.
have a good night. Thank you.
Seeing you all. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Reverend Kirk, I hope I didn't keep you up too late.
The Lord bless you and keep you, ma'am.
Oliver, thanks for that prayer. I will share it with Minister and let him know it was written especially for this evening. I'll share that with him to use in other occasions.
My pleasure, my pleasure. God bless you. And a good evening.
Good evening as well, Reverend. All the best.